we arrive once again to another thrilling adventure of the Kobolds. Last time, for the Kobolds, after returning to the Dale from their defeat of the Frostmaiden, utterly destroying her avatar in its entirety, or at least for now, their return to the Dale was a joyous one, filled to the brim with people just filled with hope and desire to reach for a better future. For every town they visited, they were met with all the people that they helped along the way. But for now, before they fulfill their end of the bargain with Villain Harpel, they needed a little bit of a restock in their supplies, going through Bryn Shander to spend all of their hard-earned gold and sell off their very hard-earned loot. To which, I believe, you have acquired all your necessary supplies, if I'm correct.
I believe so. Yes.
Very good.
I'm going to add rations, but I'll take that off on my own.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I'm doing the same.
That's
realized
totally fair. Totally fair and valid. I accept this.
5 silver per K.
But as such, with everything in tow, supplies retrieved, what you do here now is up to you. If only the only direction you receive is the constant pestering from Villain to continue your journey to the Reggae Glacier.
Well, that's another thing I actually need to get.
So do we want to go to East Haven then, and then off from there?
Might as well.
Haven't been there yet.
Nah.
East Haven, good. Mead, Cardinaval, Kirkhonig.
I will say, though you have not been there yet, go ahead and just, for all of you, go ahead and roll just a general investigation check. Or charisma check of your choice.
Charisma or investigation?
Yes.
Which of these is gonna better at, I wonder.
I wonder. Oh!
Should have flew too close to the
I'm
sun.
kind of considering this as more of a group check, but then that happened.
Yeah, that's...
4 failures.
Well, okay. Well,
Would you mind me buying 10 javelins too?
oh sure, go right ahead. Just go ahead and we won't focus too much on that. If you want to just mark those off with gold and just go ahead and add those to your character sheet. All good. There's more than enough to go around in that department. But in terms of just investigating, talking around, despite the failures, you kind of get the sense that the places that you just mentioned, well, if you recall the dragon's flight path, well, that's all I can really say about that.
There's still gonna be people going back to there afterwards.
Yeah, but it's likely going to be salvage operation instead of people trying to, live there and have stuff set up.
Well, if they need any help doing something, we can do it real quick while we pass through. I'm sure we can be of help
Oh.
somehow. We weren't able to
See.
help during the time the Frostmaiden was around, so maybe afterwards.
Okay, well that makes sense to me. I'm ready to help.
I must remind you, Villain Harpel steps in, of the utmost importance in the
I said
quest
really
of-
quick. I know you're in a rush.
Well, how quick is very quick, exactly?
Well, how quick is a glacier?
she ponders this for a moment. Not very.
I don't think it's going anywhere. You'll be fine.
Very well.
Technically, glaciers can move up to 6 feet over the course of a year.
Yeah, 6 feet a year. I don't think we're going
It
that
happens
slow.
all at once, though. So like, don't stand in front of them when it ticks over.
Noted. She kind of gives you a curious look, but nods. It's like, oh yeah, the math checks out. But
I want to get a gift from that.
just a gif of like a glacier just moving 6 feet suddenly and then trapping someone underneath.
Thing is, like, I've seen. It's a reference. I wonder if I can find it. I cannot. Never mind.
That's okay. Well, show it to me after the session. I'd love to see it. But in any case, I assume that means you would like to travel onward at this point.
It's not with me.
Alright, so, considering where you are now, traveling from Bryn Shander, taking the Eastway Road will get you to East Haven pretty easily. Probably wouldn't take you more than a couple hours from here. So, you go ahead and start taking that road. And as you're traveling, not coming from East Haven itself, but you do see, there are some travelers along the road that are traveling along with you. Some keeping pace alongside you, others keeping more of a distance, maybe 60 or 100 feet or so behind you. It seems that some of the inhabitants of East Haven are traveling back, and you can see them carrying, either behind them physically or on dog sleds, like long barges, wood, most assumedly and assuredly for repairs. But you eventually, over the course of the next couple hours, you do find your way into East Haven. Now, true to form, let me double check, because I need to double check how much of the town is actually destroyed.
It's just one guy's. Not even his house. It's like his shed.
Let's see here.
Got absolutely flattened.
As you enter this town, it's very clear this town was hit probably one of the hardest amongst all the others. At least half the town is obliterated. Just piles of rubble of wood and stone. Among the streets, you'll still see the frozen bodies of dozens of the town militia. Honestly, even though you've never been here before, you get the sense with how many bodies there are, probably the whole town's defense force was completely destroyed and wiped out. And among the militia, you spy at least 250 other corpses. Some arms, legs poking out from the rubble. You can see as you're coming into town, there are already some people here, alive, thankfully, who are currently in the midst of trying to rummage through the rubble, trying to see if they can find any survivors at all. But you see great despair as some families look on in absolute horror as they see the mangled forms of their kinsmen and kinswomen as they retrieved from the rubble. What happened here was nothing short of a disaster. But you all think to yourselves, if you hadn't have stopped the dragon at Tourmaline, it could have been much worse for so many others. So you take at least a little bit of solace in that. But as it stands, as you ask around, if you offer to help, which I believe you did have that in mind, go ahead, if you would like to, you may go ahead and roll either an acrobatics check, perception check, or investigation check of your choice in order to help the efforts of either locating survivors or finding lost loved ones, finding trinkets that, family heirlooms that belong to someone. Any number of tasks in order to help these folk. And there will be a reward in it for you of either supplies of your choice or perhaps just some rations. So if you would like to make those
choices.
What did you say, Stephen?
What are the choices?
The choices of skills between athletics, investigation, or perception. Acrobatics wouldn't necessarily apply in this case. But because...
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you definitely said acrobatics, though.
Did I say acrobatics? I thought I said athletics. Tell you what, though, if you kept that roll, I'll let you keep the roll for that acrobatics, but then just use your athletics scales.
Okay. So that was an 18. So 19 total.
19 total. Okay, perfect. 20th?
You said perception or athletics?
Yeah, perception, athletics, or investigation.
Ooh, investigation.
Okay. All right.
All.
Excellent, excellent. All of your efforts greatly speed up and improve the efforts. So, you actually managed to find at least a dozen survivors among the rubble. Some of them had been maybe surviving for days underneath the rubble, starving, unable to get out.
And when we move the rubble, the first thing they see is the sunlight.
Yes, exactly. So then the first thing they see is the sun, so they go, ah, as they cover their eyes.
They haven't seen sunlight in what?
In 2 years.
2 years.
2 years. But yes, not only that, but you find several families' heirlooms, and just overall, you have greatly improved the efforts. In order just in some sort of semblance of order here. And so, for your efforts, not only do you get some rations, which I will roll for you, you get... I will say you get 12 rations. In addition, you get 3 healing potions. As one of the individuals that you helped was one of the local apothecaries. Her shop was mostly destroyed, but you managed to salvage some of their reagents, which they managed to whip you up something on the spot. So that's your basic run-of-the-mill health potion.
That's fair enough.
And all in all, time of day, I'd say it's probably midday at this point.
I am not sure I personally need the rations or the potions.
Is there a place where they're bringing the bodies to be buried? Like a large graveyard they're making for this?
It does seem like they are, yes. For the most part, there isn't too much ceremony behind it per se, but they won't prevent you from saying a few words or doing something if you wish. Right now, it just seems they're kind of digging shallow graves and marking them simply with stones, stacking them on top of each other, almost like small cairns. If you would like to do something, you certainly may.
Did each of us get 3 health potions, or just 3 health potions divided by the 4 of us?
3 potions divided by the 4 of you.
Gotcha.
I'll say a few words and is the speaker somewhere around?
Unfortunately, the speaker of the town had perished along with the militia, it seems.
Who's the interim speaker?
Right now, there is none. So currently,
Does
the
it look
town
like
is...
someone's-
The town does not
Does it look
have...
like-
Oh, go ahead.
Does it look like someone is trying to like take charge and like get people doing things?
Right now, no. It mostly seems to be disorderly, and just maybe a couple people are... Got a couple of the the healing folk, some of the elders are trying to get people together, but honestly, it's not too orderly at the moment. It's really lacking leadership. Just kind of like looking around, it really seems like this town lost at least like a third of its population at least.
Um. Here.
Hmm?
I'm going to use thaumaturgy and try to like gather people together. And then start like organizing them into 3 groups. One for search and rescue, one for clearing out rubble, and one for rebuilding and running the different things like food, shelter, water. Make sure that they have their own thing. And then the group that is in charge of search and rescue will work together with the people who are clearing rubble. If they find someone, they'll have someone within the clearing rubble group to go find, and then once they get the rubble off of the people they've found, they'll bring them to the people who are in charge of food, water, and shelter and get them patched up.
Okay. In that case, go ahead and roll me a persuasion check. And because of your your efforts and the efforts that you've done so far, go ahead and roll it with advantage.
I'm going to emboldening bond here. $18. Oh wait, no, that's not with advantage.
You do have advantage on this check.
So 24. 27.
27. Okay. Let me see here. Double checking. Of all of them, who would still be alive, if anyone? Most of the population is dead, but... yeah, they're certainly dead. Let's see here. Really, at this point, it's become a game of who's dead, who's not dead. Which is unfortunate, but... let's see here. Indeed.
I'm also gonna let them know that once they've got everyone buried, and I've got my next mission completed, I will come back and do a ceremony for the dead.
Indeed, indeed. I'm trying to find who important they might find under the rubble. Give me just a little itty bit. Because I wasn't quite expecting this outcome, but I do like this outcome. Let's see. Let's see here. Yep, that's what I thought. Okay. So, through all your efforts, there is a little bit of a surprise as they see this meek little kobold shout with this surprising elegance and loudness to their voice, echoing throughout the ruined town. But in doing so, they see the symbol that you carry, the symbol of Eldath, the symbol of peace, the symbol of the green, and they're inspired. You see a large number of people all begin to start speaking amongst themselves and nodding. If this little kobold can inspire us, we can truly put our minds to this. And though they were doing very much of what they were before, but with your instructions, with your direction, the efforts are doubled, nay, even tripled, more so than they were before. Food is gathered, rescue operations greatly improved. Even though you all had done a good enough job already, they at least turn out a good 24 more individuals who were basically kind of living off of just wood at this point, trying to survive under the rubble. And all in all, it seems like there is at least some people are starting to flock to you a little bit, Meepo. You see a few individuals, as all this is going on, begin to approach you slowly, but meekly, but not afraid. One individual steps forward, who appears to be dwarven in appearance. Am I right in saying you worship the Green Mother, little one? Is that right?
I respond in Dwarvish.
Oh. He seems a bit shocked that you speak his native tongue, but he will respond back to you in Dwarvish. Bless me soul. Huh. Never thought I'd see the day. I hear, you wouldn't happen to know the Giant of Eldath, would you?
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret, I say in Dwarvish still.
He leans in.
The Giant of Eldath is me.
There is a moment of silence as he leans backward, and yet there is a moment of doubt, hesitation. His eyes kind of look around him and looks back to you, kind of like a side glance. But then he
And then I lean over to him again and say, "Well, more accurately, it's us." And I kind of point to the other kobolds doing the work in the background.
He kind of strokes his beard. And he thinks for a moment, and then he slowly nods. Aye. I suppose you could say the Giant of Eldath is all of us, he says to you in Dwarven.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
He gives a wide smile at that.
It takes a lot of people to make peace last.
Aye. That it does. You've done a good thing here, you and your friends. I don't think, At that point, Skills, you would understand this in the conversation. Oh, never mind. You didn't mean to cast that, I assume.
Hanging out.
That's okay. You think about it for a second, like, you're like, I want to listen into this conversation, but you're like, you think against it. You know...
Did you need something from me? I'm gonna switch to common.
Me? No, but, well, we were all talking, and it's a bit strange for, well, don't be thinking it's rude for me to say, but, we never thought kobolds would want to help, people like us. I heard stories about stuff from Tourmaline. Kobolds were living amongst the rest of us. I myself scoffed at it first, but honestly, with the good that's been done, if you be wanting it, I don't think many people would be opposed to you making a concerted effort to maybe, I don't know, becoming a speaker.
Me?
Oh,
Nah, I
yeah,
couldn't
you.
do that.
Aye. Why not? You seem to have a gift
I-
for it.
I might have a gift for it, but I've got too many other places I've got to be.
Ah, that I certainly understand.
Unless you want your speaker out of town all the time.
Well,
Maybe someday.
aye, fair enough. Well, wherever you're heading to, hope it's somewhere warm. He kind of shivers and a little bit, but then again, I have a feeling it'll get warmer soon. As he kind of looks up towards the sun.
Sure will.
You take care of yourself now. Dwarf kind of gives you a nod.
When you have decided on a speaker, go ahead and let me know, and I want to talk to them. I want to kind of talk to all the speakers actually eventually. Is there ever a time where the speakers get together?
Aye, and when they do, they always meet up in Bryn Shander as a council. Usually they
Alright,
send word out through messengers. People will know.
Good. I'm assuming there'll probably be one of those soon.
That wouldn't surprise me. Especially with what's been going on. Finally, maybe they'll stop doing the sacrifices. It'll all finally come to an end. No more putting people up on the stakes.
Here in East Haven?
Oh, he kind of gets a sour look on his face. Oh, there were, lassie. There were. With the humankind, too.
Oh.
Mortal kind, rather. Up in Bryn Shander, they at least had the decency to at least send him off. At least that way, he didn't have to know what became of him. Here, though, he kind of looks towards a section of the town that has a burnt mark in the center. They used to burn him at that stake. We'd all huddle around for warmth. Barbaric is what it was. But we were all afraid. Afraid of the Frostmaiden, you see. I won't say it excuses what we did, 'cause it didn't. But you have to understand how afraid we were.
Was there anyone who spoke up against it?
Aye, there were a few.
Did they live? Any of them?
Kind of looks around, looks at the bodies. There were a few. Captain Argonath, and some of the militiamen. Speaker, Wayland, but he was he was a good man, but he was a superstitious sort. So, but they're all dead now.
I'd look for your speaker among those who survived and who were against it.
We'll see. We've pulled out a lot of people thanks to your help. If we see the speaker among them, well, hopefully, we'll give him a stern talking to. Kind of gives you a nod. Like I said, you'll stay safe out there. He kind of gives you a nod and starts going back to help out with the concerted efforts.
Okay. I'm ready to go whenever everybody else is.
Is everyone else ready to go?
Yes, boxes.
Excellent. Then in that case...
Ganaki, would you want to be a speaker?
As you start cackling in the middle of town and everyone starts to turn in your direction.
I think this is like us walking out of the town.
Sure. There's still some people outside the town,
Yeah,
mind you.
And they're just like watching us leave as Canuck cackles.
I like to imagine it says some of the people are like trying to bury their dead, and they just like glare in your direction, like specifically Skinnuck's direction as he's cackling.
Yep.
You hear like a quiet shout, "Have some respect for the dead."
Hey.
Shrug.
Drunk.
But in
I
any
killed the thing that
case,
killed him, so I guess like that buys us some leeway.
alright, so, with that though, you begin making your way towards the Reggae Glacier. As you exit the town, just begin making your way in earnest. Evelyn does kind of give you a small brief on where she believes the correct entry point would be. She recalls in her divining magic there is a specific point in the glacier where there is a massive wall made of specifically of blue, almost like blue, perfectly crystal clear blue ice, almost like a cascading waterfall with a bisected crack right down the center. Very difficult to miss. You would be very easily seen. And she believes she knows the general direction of where this place is. In her sort of divination magic, she knows that taking one of the rivers, specifically one of the rivers leading upwards, up Lake Denishir, would be likely the right way to go. Because most of these rivers are actually flowing down from the glacier itself as runoff water. That's where the majority of the water actually comes from, and how the lake got so big.
Makes sense.
But there are rivers that go up this way.
Yes, so direction-wise, they do go this way, but like as like the flow of water specifically.
Okay.
Is
So
going
none
down.
of them flow up that way, but they're saying to take the ones.
Yes, so take that path.
These are-
One of those paths would likely be the way to go to reach the destination.
Okay.
So with that,
Well,
she
you've got the
does.
walrus,
Yeah, you do have the walrus, or should I say the Akuma?
the Akuba. Yeah.
Yeah.
The arms of the angels fly away from here. Sorry,
Oh,
I
good boy.
digress. As I break characters, the DM to bust out into song. Apparently, my apologies. I'm in a bit of a mood tonight.
He's a lot of a singing mood. This is like the fourth time he's broken into song.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We've got one of those Kobold press things that's like the song that.
Oh yeah, there's
That's Daniel.
totally a monster like that. But in any case, you start to travel up this route right here, and let me go ahead and roll something.
It's a dark.
Let's see here. Oh.
Told you it was a Dargon.
Let's see. You
Oh, no.
make a good
No,
amount of
Dargon.
headway. Over up north this river. It's very easy to follow. Let's see here. The general terrain of this area of the tundra is actually quite hilly. There are quite massive snowdrifts that rise up a good like 20 or so feet with each individual one, kind of dotting the surrounding tundra. You can see the snow starting to be slowly blasted off each one from the wind, one by one, kind of giving it an ethereal air to it. Let's see. The dwarf's name, I believe... Let me double check here. Let's see. The dwarf's name was Aragor.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So go ahead and write that in your notes. And as you're traveling along, let's see here. I would like everyone to make perception checks for me. And let's see here. Yes.
We perceive. Oh.
10. 10. Thankfully, the DC on this was not particularly high, as it is very difficult to miss something of this massive size. You see, along the river, a massive form. A massive, white, draconic form. As currently, you see the form of the white worm, Arveaterace, back turned to you. Head, apparently, dug into the snow. You can see the head and neck swiveling and snapping. It seems to be perhaps eating something, biting at something. But whichever the case, the back of the creature is turned to you. Arveaterace is perhaps no more than 300 or so feet ahead of you. And has not taken notice of you yet.
Anybody got a spell that makes this disappear real quick?
We can just
I
wait
can
for her to
get-
leave.
I could.
Yes, that would be wise. I don't know about the rest of you and your tangling with gods, but I would like to live.
I mean, she's on our hit list. We're gonna fight her eventually.
Why am I
Well,
not
I don't think-
surprised?
I don't think we're ready for her right now, though.
I mean, maybe something we dig up in this stuff under the glacier you're looking for will be adequate.
Yes, most likely. But the Netherese had all manner of ancient magic that's most likely extinct today. Although my previous incentive was for you to find something to deal with the Frostmaiden, I might instead suggest that I might deal with the dragon instead.
Yeah, sounds right to me.
We do have something, but I don't think we want to use that quite yet. I'm gonna look over at Skanuk
Do you have some more rhymes?
and the anti-dragon spice.
More rhymes?
the spice.
Ah,
Control
the
the spice.
spiciest we fall.
Control the universe. But as you observe, you notice that her head suddenly snaps upward, and you see half of a carcass of a polar bear in her maw as she just chomps down, horrid cracking sounds. It just emanating throughout the tundra. As she swallows. As the wings begin to flap, and she begins to take off into the air, shakily, given you imagine her poor eyesight and her condition. But she takes off into the air. She begins to make a concerted effort to fly to the east. Sorry, to the west, rather.
We're gonna avenge that polar bear too.
Yeah.
kind of want to check in with our werebear friend now, just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Might be.
What were we gonna say, Michael?
Might be worth doing. You never know when some fucking dragon.
Alright, so you go ahead and cast the sending spell, Meepo. Alright. You wait a few moments. A tense few moments, Meepo. But you do get a response back. Ah, it is you. Do not worry, for I am fine. The white worm is getting restless. Something has shifted in the dale. Be careful. And that is the end of her message.
Well, it wasn't our friend, so we're still avenging it, of course, but
But
Shall
that's
we
the message
continue?
that you received. And thankfully, they are still alive.
yes.
So, with that, you continue on your way, thankfully, with the dragon no longer in sight. You travel for another few hours before it seems to be. Now, remind me of this. You guys are preferring to travel at night, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because of the kobold site. Okay, I did keep that in mind.
For all the reasons.
So in that case, it would just be about to be getting to dawn at this point. You can see, as you look towards the south, towards the spine of the world, it's getting just about the point where the sun is just peeking above the mountains. The light slowly, like a wave, crawling across the dale. So, is there any particular way you would like to prepare for your long rest, or are you just going to camp out where you are? Because currently, in your immediate vicinity, you see some of those snowdrifts I had mentioned before. There's also right next, of course, you are right next to the frozen-ish river, which is, of course, has been breaking apart and getting a stronger flow the further you travel up across it. So, yeah.
Aside from assigning watch, I don't know that there's any special thing that I would think to do.
We should make sure our place where we're staying is sheltered from the wind somewhat. But yeah, once we've set up camp, just set up watch and
Well, I certainly don't need to make any sort of watch, and I don't believe your friend does either.
I'm going to ask the wizard what kind of spells we might need to do stuff in the Ragged Glacier area once we get there.
In the glacier?
Or
Well,
the city, I mean.
well, you gotta think for a minute. Let me roll a check for her. Oh, that was actually quite good. What we might find is only a matter of speculation, but according to Netherese texts that have been recovered, they've had magics that are far beyond anything we've ever known. If there was anything to be done, perhaps something that could perhaps dispel magical traps, if necessary, as no doubt they would leave behind some terrible magics behind. No doubt anything that they would leave behind is, if it could cast spells, and if anyone has any ability to counter spells, that would also be helpful if you have that capability. Let's see. I believe, actually, Professor Scant. She kind of brings up to the heirloom.
Yes, I am here to serve, madam.
Is there anything helpful you could give us?
Well, if the fall of Yithrin is to be believed, let's see here. Anything I've already told you would be necessary. Well, anything you've already described would be accurate, Miss Boleyn. Although, I believe I mentioned before that the city was under the care of a lich by the name of Irregolathus, so perhaps anything that can deal with the undead would be of utmost importance, as no doubt he had many necromantic minions under his sway, although of course that's merely speculation, but it could be accurate.
And Velen will kind of give a sweeping gesture. Well, that's as good as I can give you. After all, we are delving into unknown territory, but that's as broad as a broad an answer as I can give, young one.
I think it's helpful. Does the professor know anything about charging giant weapons with lightning and what they do to like manage that, how they make sure they don't overload and things like that?
What a strange idea. When did you come across such a topic? I would love to hear more about it.
It was a broken statue.
A broken statue. No doubt in a giant ruin, perhaps. Might I see what it is you're talking about? If you have a sample of some kind?
Do we have any pieces of the statue?
Of the statue, no, but you do have the
The liquid?
you do have the ethereal kind of energy in the canisters. Yes.
Do we want to show the professor that stuff? Turn to Hawks and
Sure. Why not?
disconnect. All right.
You can see the orb kind of like glow for a small second.
That is absolutely fascinating. I have never seen such a substance before. Oh, yeah. Let's see. And is there anything more you can tell me about it? I am doing a little bit of inspection of my own here, but any hints you could give me, or any information I could salvage something off of?
It has something to do with dragons and weapons.
Ah, that's unsurprising. Dragons and giants are natural enemies, or have been for thousands of years. So that is not surprising, to say the least. Let's see. Weapon against dragons. Let me jog my memory. I might have heard reference of weapons like these, although I've never seen evidence of such a thing. There have been texts describing strange magics the giants would wield against the dragons. Although, I don't know if you knew this, but giants created many things that were meant as weapons against the dragons. If you've ever heard of a behir, or perhaps even the rock, actually, they were created by the giants as weapons against the dragons. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Never heard of a rock.
Sure you haven't.
Let's see, if my memory is correct, I've heard tales of such a substance. Dragon's bane, they called it. Let's see here. If I'm remembering correctly, the stories that I heard, it could rend the very scales from their flesh, tearing their wings asunder, and dealing terrible blows. Absolutely frighteningly powerful. Against dragons, at least. Not good against much else, mind you, but... well, in its intended quarry, absolutely deadly.
Actually, now I think about it, I wonder if this stuff does anything to, like, kobolds and dragonborn.
Oh, most assuredly, but nowhere near as lethal. And if you're... because of only a small smidgen of dragon's blood, because you're not considered dragons, even though you do have some ancestry, I believe. It should deal maybe some minor discomforts, minor discoloration of the scales, maybe if you're particularly attuned to your draconic heritage, perhaps some amount of deadly poisoning, perhaps. But other than that, should be relatively harmless.
What would it do to a kobold who's gone in the opposite direction and picked up a bunch of giant-related abilities, skills, and so on and so forth?
Most likely absolutely nothing.
Oh, cool.
Yes, giants were rather fond of... well, giants in general were rather ethnocentric, as it were, so if anything, it might be good just to... well, as I said, it wouldn't do anything to you, but it certainly wouldn't harm you to at least carry some of it around, at least. It wouldn't hurt you, so why not? There is a matter of propulsion, though. On its own, it's... well, it's certainly deadly, but it's a matter of, introducing it to a significant amount of force to, I assume, break this canister. You mentioned something about a statue and lightning. If I'm to be correct... let's see here. A significant amount of electrical energy might be enough to, say, launch it. Of course, you would have to have it in a suitable vessel to launch it without it launching in a random direction. Perhaps something like a ballista or a cannon. A suitable leverage to force it in a direction so that you can properly aim it. But once the electricity is added, it should launch it a good... this is only conjecture, mind you. Perhaps 200 feet? 100 feet? It's difficult to say.
Interesting.
Oh yes, I remember seeing your improvised works, Mr. Skinnock. Dreadfully good, mind you. I do believe that might actually be... that might work. It wouldn't be as effective as, say, a ballista, but it could work if you have nothing else in the moment.
Very, very. I'll have to... I think I could probably cobble something together for the old sled here.
What about the catapult spell?
It might be a little too heavy. I guess I could upcast it.
You could upcast it, although it is frighteningly heavy just from the look of it. You might... Honestly, I believe your cannon would probably be a better use of it. Though not an unclever idea, but a more practical one would be the cannon.
Yeah, we'd have to pour it into smaller vials somehow.
Yes, it's quite fascinating. Even though it is not liquid, nor is it gas, it has a significant amount of weight. It's truly fascinating.
The whole time, by the way, Villain has sat Professor Scant on the ground and is just feverishly sketching notes of everything. So, with the information you've just received, Villain goes ahead and casts her own version of Tiny Hut. And this Scales, of course, has his, should you need it for the night. Enough for all of your companions. And so, should you wish it, unless you have anything else you wish to do, you may go ahead and take another rest. Let me see, though. I need to count something out. Let's see, the time that you got back. 1, 2, 3, 4... 3 days, and then 5. There is one thing I do need to ask before you guys go to sleep. What have you been doing with the silver dragon egg?
Keeping it safe and
Okay. Where have you been keeping it safe?
on the sled, probably.
Okay.
We made like a little nest for it.
Yeah. I'm sure I've been like going by, checking it, listening to it, like shining it.
Okay, hang on. I need to look up something really quickly.
Chewing the Yeti child away from it. Here, go play with your ball. Here, throw the ball.
Hisses at you, Meepo, and then takes the ball and runs away with it.
That's not a toy.
Let's see here. The night is peaceful. Skanuk, your dreams go unimpeded. No nightmares to plague your sleep. For the first time in a while, everything feels right. And yet, as the night progresses, you hear a curious sound as you all begin to wake up. Weird rhythmic tapping sound. Almost like a rock on ice. Roll a perception check, all of you. All right. Almost like instinct. You know exactly where that noise is coming from. As you look towards the egg, the silver dragon egg, it's moving.
Ooh.
That same tapping sound.
Oh no.
It knows Morse code.
Do you?
Same.
With the natural 20 skills, you suddenly think, oh, it's hatching. Then you think, wait, is it having trouble getting through the shell? It might be stuck.
Hawks, you wanna give the egg the old 1-2? Maybe give it a helping hand out of there.
Sure thing. Can I try to like crack it by hand?
I'm going to do emboldening bond on Hawks, myself, the dragon.
You can't technically see the dragon per se because it's you know.
I don't.
Wait, does this wait? No, hold on.
Peace
This
with
doesn't
one
require.
another.
It just has to be
30 feet
willing.
of me.
Ah, okay. See, I keep misunderstanding this ability. Okay. Let's see here. I need to look up Silver Dragon. Okay, so Hawks, go ahead and roll for me. roll athletics, and this is not so much to just like brute force it. This is like using the right amount of force in the right place.
I suppose the other person would be Scales.
I will activate my Giant's Might
Oh,
and go big. And then I can daintily pick up this egg. Not really daintily, but I can pick it up and potentially crack it like an egg. Tap it on something a little bit and split it.
You're just gonna take it and then just crack it like you would over a skillet.
Yeah, I'll crack it on the edge of the little nest we built for it, and I will crack it out so that the dragon falls straight into the nest.
Okay, roll athletics.
I'm gonna go. We're gonna try to like make sure
Okay,
the
so
nest
that's
is
a
very
15.
soft.
Okay. Wait, what were you
Not my
doing?
best.
I'm like making sure all of the softest things are in the spot where it lands.
Okay, you pull out a few of those rock feathers and you're like, pillow. And what'd you say, Mike, before I cut you off?
I rolled a 15, which is not Hawks' best, but
15. Okay. So, it's not very graceful. You kind of, it's a bit wobbly at first, and the movement within the egg and that weird kind of tapping sound, it's kind of like throwing you off a bit, because it's clearly like it's like you think in your mind that it's trying to use maybe its snout or maybe like a claw to try and like poke its way through, but the egg is too, like, the shell is too thick for it to do so. So you think, okay, I'll find the weak point, and I'll try and find where it is, try and get it out. So you take it on both ends, on both sides of the egg, and you, as it slurps out this infant silver dragon, it kind of plops onto its back, onto the nest, tail up in the air, forearms and legs wiggling, as it suddenly pauses, looks around, and it kind of opens its eyes for the first time, and starts breathing. Some of that egg fluid still kind of in its lungs is trying to cough it out, which is having some trouble because of the way it was birthed in this sense.
I'm gonna ritual cast ceremony.
It starts coughing up. Starts rolling onto its stomach. Kind of kneels up, lifting its head up. Now that it kind of like licks at its scales. You can see it's still covered in that sticky kind of like amniotic egg fluid, and it kind of starts rolling around in the snow. As you're trying to get a hold on it to this ceremony, Meepo, it kind of starts just rolling around in the snow. And the Yeti Tyke, of course, thinks this is now a game and starts rolling along with it. But as you try and chase it around, it kind of like shakes itself off. And it looks at you, Meepo, and you can see it has a very elongated neck. This little silver dragon wormling, and its mohawk has not quite formed fully. It is still very much just a small, tiny little fin, barely half an inch tall on its head, going all the way from the cranium all the way down to the base of the tail. And the wings are still kind of folded inward slightly, like you don't think they'd be good for flight as of yet, but it's kind of stretching them out slightly. And I get to roll. I get to make some rolls here, courtesy of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Let's see here.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I have some notes to take. Some things are determined at birth. The others will be determined by other things. But you can see as you currently are the first thing it saw was Hawks. As it looked up at Hawks and just saw this massive form. Now it's looking at you, Meepo. Looks back and forth between you, Meepo, and Hawks. Looks back at you, Meepo. And you hear a tiny little voice squeak out, Mama. And then Hawks, Papa. In Draconic.
Not really.
Honestly, considering how long it takes dragon eggs to hatch, you might be older than us.
Kind of squints its eyes confusedly. You can see
At
it.
least-
It kind of like takes a claw, a tiny little, not fully formed yet claw, and you can clearly see why it was having trouble. It seems that its talons are malformed, and it can't quite. It doesn't have like full-on claws. It just seems like it had like little paws, almost cat-like, like where where the claws would be. It seems that it's lacking natural defenses as of now. It kind of holds it up and kind of like wipes away some of the remaining fluid on its eyes.
Could we
Kinda
tell like
blinks.
the cause of that? Maybe. Is it something arcane or
Hang
physical,
on.
or something
My headphones
otherwise?
are- Go ahead and say that again. Sorry.
Could we tell the cause of why it's kind of malformed? Is that something arcane? Is it something physical, or something otherwise?
Go ahead and roll a medicine check.
Medicine. I still have emboldening bond on me. That's good.
This is all being done kind of semi. Let me see here. 9.
And Scales also has emboldening bond.
Okay, yeah, Meepo, you don't get a good sense, but
12.
yeah, okay. Difficult to say, Meepo. You think maybe? It's difficult to say whether it's magical or biological. Scales. It was just born, and it just came out of the egg. You don't think it's anything magical. It's most likely just a defected of birth, most likely. Either it was either like manhandled, most likely either by the rock or by the Frostmaiden. Probably during it when it was in like a critical stage of development, and even though it didn't harm the outer shell of the egg, it probably harmed the infant inside. So most likely this is just an unfortunate side effect of that.
Potentially greater restoration
That's what I was wondering.
restoration it eventually.
I was thinking either greater restoration or remove curse, depending on what it was.
This is something more biological in that sense, not something magical.
So would greater restoration do anything? I'm gonna try
No, not for greater restoration. You don't think.
What about regenerate?
Regenerate is something that's more likely.
Right, so I'd have to wait for ages to do that.
But
Then maybe it'll have to stay with us. Do we know what its gender is? Can we tell?
well, why don't you roll me a 1d2? 1 is male, 2 is female.
Who wants to roll that? I can do it, or you guys can decide. Anybody particularly want to? Skanak. 1 is male then.
Congratulations, it's a boy. You can see it's still very much confused overall. Starts looking towards the sky, kind of sniffs, looks down at the Yeti Tyke. The Yeti Tyke looks back at it. There's a small moment of silence between the two. And then Yeti Tyke throws a snowball at the silver dragon wormling's face. The Yeti Tyke laughs.
Not play nice.
You see the silver dragon kind of shrink down a little bit and starts seeing you, Hawks, as like the big thing, starts to hide behind you. Seeing you as its protector being so big.
Okay.
Well, we are well past that point, Meeple Molo. You hear Muerte say from pulling the cart.
I mean, it was just one Yeti attack before, but okay. I don't mind it, but I don't know if they're.
Yeah, you've got quite the following. Yeah, I'm still here. You see the little shrub poking its head out.
Yeah, but you're not really a child, are you?
I
Wait,
mean,
are
I
you?
suppose in the grand scheme of things, I was created not even a year ago. I mean, how old do humans have to be before they're adult? I mean, I'm practically an infant by human standards. I don't know. I don't feel like a baby, but I suppose everything's in perspective.
How long do bushes usually live?
I don't know.
That's a.
I
Well,
think humans
we'll
become
do some
adults at
research on
like
that.
10 or something. It's a
Is it-
long time, I know that.
Is it 10? That sounds right.
I don't know.
I think it's a little later than that. From my Kenku days,
Oh,
maybe
that's
12,
right.
14?
Oh, so then it's...
Oh, that's-
oh, wait, no. Are they like L's? Is it like 50 or like 90?
No, it's not that late. I don't think.
That's just
10 was
lazy,
close.
really. Lazy. Shameful.
You can see the Yeti Tyke is currently still pestering the Silver Dragon, and each time the Yeti... This time it's playing nice, and it's not like throwing snowballs at it anymore. But each time the Yeti like pokes its head out as if to play like peekaboo with the Silver Dragon, the dragon starts crawling along your body, Hawks. Like it tries to like every time the Yeti pokes its head out, it crawls to the opposite side of where the Yeti is, like all on like next to you, Hogs.
I appreciate that I have become a jungle gym.
You essentially are.
Well, someday we can return the favor. I don't think we'll live that long, actually.
Well, this is
Man, life is fleeting.
so it
Oh,
is. That's fascinating. Villain says as she kind of like, oh, good morning, by the way. Or
What were you
rather,
saying?
evening, rather. Oh, I don't get you, kobolds. How do you... Ah.
Somebody was saying something and I interrupted.
Oh, who was saying what?
Follow me.
Wasn't me. Well, with that said, I assume you guys wish to continue your way up the river.
Yeah.
The dragon, of course, during this time. Eventually, you shrink down, Hawks, of course, and then it's almost quite depressing. The dragon like mourns the loss of the large parent to being able to hide behind. So instead, it hides behind the next biggest thing, which is Muerte. I do not approve of being used in such a manner. I'll have you know that I find this highly disagreeable.
Oh, come on, you're a dragon. You're big. You can do this.
I am not. It is flattering, thank you, but that will get you nowhere.
No, I'm talking to the
I
baby.
know what you meant. Muerte says, I am quite powerful, intimidating like a dragon. I know. She says, clearly, deliberately misinterpreting what you're saying. You see the dragon kind of like, it seems to be very timid in its demeanor. It definitely seems to appreciate a bigger creature to kind of hide behind, it seems. Not necessarily cowardly, but it seems more so that because it's in such a vulnerable stage of its life. Even though dragons are fairly, for the most part, able to take care of themselves, even at a young age, this is just hatched, and clearly is looking for some form of safety from a bigger creature.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah, it does. A couple words come out in Draconic every now and again. When it feels up to it, and it says, "Where are we going?"
We're going on an adventure.
Yep.
What's an adventure?
Well, an adventure's a journey towards danger so that we can set things right.
Will there be... Seems to kind of struggle for the word. Violence?
Probably, but not from me.
Ah, as you kind of say not from you, it does seem to kind of like lean a bit closer to you on Muerte. It seems to find comfort in that. Violence is scary. I don't know if I like it. I have weird memories. Weird dreams from Egg. Don't like violence.
Probably understandable considering the company that your egg was keeping.
Or the company that was keeping your egg, more like.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever the technical. Yeah.
You know, you survived quite an ordeal.
I did?
You sure did.
Yeah. At this point in the time, you notice the dragon is only speaking in Draconic.
Yeah, I would be speaking in Draconic as well then.
Which, of course, all of you as kobolds, all of you know Draconic, so this, of course, is not a non-issue. Which, of course, as Muerte, of course, does not speak a lick of Draconic, so this is all just nonsense to Muerte. But the travel continues until eventually you come to a fork in the river. You see Villain will get off of her sled, kind of look around a little bit. Could you all keep an eye out? I'm going to concentrate on something. Give us a good direction. Just keep an eye out, please. And she will kind of hunker down and start looking at her spellbook.
Okie dokie.
You're shitting.
Oh, fun.
So, you have some time looking out. You can go ahead and roll perception checks, but what do you do while you wait for Villain to finish her divination?
Was I able to finish that ceremony, or would I have to wait and finish it?
You would have been able to, yes. Eventually, the
Okay.
tyke would have stopped moving, and the perfect opportunity would have been when when they were like kind of like riding on the back, curled up on Muerte's back. But that would have been the prime time to do it.
Okay. I took off the materials needed for that, and I guess now I would just be like telling the dragon stories about, I don't know, what great things Hawks and Skanuk and Scales have done.
You see, the wormling is spellbound by all of it.
And then I would let Scales, I guess, do the like musical background or whatever, or ask him to do that.
When I grow up, I want to protect people. But I don't know how I can protect people if I'm scared all the time.
Well, that's where you talk to Scales. He's the one that did a lot of... He did a lot, even though he was scared.
Yeah? Can you teach me how to be brave? He looks at you, Scales.
I wouldn't say teach you how to be brave, but I can teach you how to stand up to your fears.
The eyes look at you in it with full of innocence, unblinking.
It's a little different. I wouldn't count myself brave at all.
I would.
You're brave to me. From the stories that you've been telling me, you all seem really brave. Maybe one day when I'm older, I can be brave too. But maybe in a way that I don't have to fight anybody. That's something like you do. Meepo.
Yeah?
I
There are ways to help people without fighting. And I'm sure you'll be strong. You'll have lots of options.
I think I'd prefer to talk.
Hey, Hawks, are there any stories you know about dragons doing things to help people? I mean, I know most of your stories are giant stories, so they're not going to be stories about things dragons did wrong, but you also know some hero stories like that elf fella.
Not just any elf.
He goes off.
Great, Christopher. Now let me tell you, if there's anyone who you should take inspiration from, I think Drist is the guy. You know, he's a legendary hero, the likes of which the world has never seen before and may never see again. An ideal to strive for.
But does he fight a lot, though?
He does, but he fights cleverly.
I think Meepo's a bit bigger hero than Drizzt Do'Urden.
That's
I
a
wouldn't
lie,
say
and you
that.
better take that back.
No!
Calm down, calm down. We don't need to be fighting here. Hero is a perspective. Certain people might have different heroes. For instance, a child saved by somebody trying to protect them from a wolf might see that person as their hero just because that person saved them personally. But that person might not do anything else heroic the entire life. So you got to think about these things in the broad spectrum of life.
And in the broad spectrum of life, Drist Do'Urden breathes heroism.
You see,
Yeah,
you see the silver dragon is more staring at Meepo with admiration. Go ahead and make a persuasion check, though, Meepo. You are trying to convince him of something. Okay. A child's mind is easily... well... Okay, I'll think about it. He says to you, Meepo.
That's not to say I'm not heroic at times. It's just you've got to think about the different ways you can be heroic. Drist had his way, and I have my way. My way just happens to follow Eldath. Did Drist have a god he followed?
Sort of, yes. I don't know what degree, for my own not in character memory, I don't know to what degree Drist really like followed or worshipped Illustrae, but
Who is involved with Illustrae?
yes, that would be the person who is effectively his patron. Not in the warlock sense, but in the like
In the like religious sense.
yes.
There is actually someone else that Drizzt actually had maybe not a fully reference for, but he did have a symbol of someone. That was Maliki, the goddess of rangers.
Oh, I think that one's somewhat related to Eldath too.
I believe so. In any
I
case,
think it's Eldath's sister, maybe.
Well, there you go. It's all interconnected. You know, some people are heroic by keeping the peace, and some people are heroic by protecting it. And you know what? I happen to go along with the notion that I should be someone to protect it. Anyway, let me talk about Drizzt some more.
Off he goes.
you see suddenly as the wormling starts sniffing the air. It begins to tremble. I smell something bad.
Hey, Scales, you want to get the shelter out?
Yeah, I can do that. And I'll actually cast this so that it's 1 minute as opposed to 10.
Indeed, indeed. You did roll a perception check earlier, Skanak.
13?
You notice, up in the sky, there is a shape that is flying around. Almost as if its very presence continues to taunt you. And your group. You thought you saw her flying to the west, and you did see her fly that direction. And yet, for some reason, the white worm has come back this direction.
Casting Sanctuary on Scales as he casts that spell.
Does she seem to be looking at us or like following us?
Well, she's blind, so she wouldn't be able to see us.
She wouldn't be seeing you. You gather you know for a fact, because of her condition, she can't see you from that distance. And yet she seems to be circling overhead, somewhat lazily. She does seem to be descending and off at like a 45-degree angle, somewhere to the east of where you are now.
See. Well, how far do these?
Right, let's see how far she is with that descent. I would say maybe half mile she's descending. Half mile away to the east.
Can we like make out anything interesting over there from where we are?
Roll perception checks.
It's not a blizzard. I can't see anything.
9, 10, 17. You don't see anything. But Meepo, you do hear sounds of conflict. You hear screams, battle cries. Strangely enough, it's hard. You kind of strain yourself to listen in, given how far it's carrying. A cry of a wild beast, perhaps? Difficult to say, but it seems like the dragon is on a warpath.
Might be the remnants of Arl's people.
Yeah, let's hope.
Maybe. Or it could be anybody, actually, really.
That's why we've got to. This is why we've got to do something about her.
Right.
Yep.
Might I ask what does your tiny hut look like, Scales?
It's a smaller translucent version of the hut that I was originally found in.
Because
Aw.
that was the safest you ever felt.
That's kind of cute, actually. You hear the sorry. You hear the beating of wings far above you. You hear the whistling of something falling. You look up. You hear and feel something splatter
Covering the dragon's eyes.
against the roof of the tiny hut.
Did
The roof
she
of the
just...
The roof of the hut is completely spattered with blood.
Oh, thank God.
She did not
I mean,
defecate.
oh,
She did not
no.
defecate on the
Man,
hut.
what am I supposed to think
Michael.
at this point?
She might as
That's
well
not
have.
disrespect you. The dragon will lay off.
But it seems she did discard a body of some kind, which hit the roof of the hut at terminal velocity and spattered very much gorily along the roof. If one of you peeks your head outside, you will see the body, half eaten, of a saber-toothed tiger, and the body of the chieftain of the tiger tribe, of the rugged nomads.
Is that the one we sent after her?
Yep. Sure is.
Wow.
That explains the behavior.
Consequences.
But there you see both chieftain and her companion, broken of body, dead. As our voyage race begins to fly, this time to the south. Right, you poke the body, squishes inward, a little bit of blood comes out. They are very clearly dead.
Darn.
Wow, this dragon has quite the body count, Villain mockingly says as she jogs some notes in her book.
Well, that one might be like 50% dragon, 50% scales.
I assume you're still covering the silver dragon's eyes, Meepo.
Yes, until it's cleaned out.
What is it? Why are you covering my eyes?
Well, there was some violence, and I don't think you need to see it.
You are very right. I do not need to see any violence.
Alright, you can close your eyes and I'll take my hands off and I can help clean up.
Right, the dragon covers its eyes with its tiny little claws and puts its wings over its head for good measure.
You stay in the hut.
Okay. Alright. Which they will do so. You guys clean. Perhaps you may even harvest the tiger's body for meat if you wish.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go and roll a survival check.
A lot of nines. A lot of nines today.
Yeesh.
9. To be fair, the body is very ragged after suffering terminal velocity impact against the top of the hut, so it's not too surprising you wouldn't get a whole lot. You managed to scrape off 1 ration, but that's all you managed to get.
And it's covered in dragon drool, and I don't really want any of that. Like,
It's also somewhat frozen.
Yes, well, good news. I did manage to find a good heading. I seem to be a magnet for the dragon now that I'm part of your crew again. I don't know what's causing it to be so active. The white worm is never usually so active before.
I think she had a beef with this guy in particular.
I see. Well, let's hope they don't have a beef with us, then. They will
Looks
soon
at the others nervously.
They will
She
soon enough,
might.
Muerte says.
She might, but her memory's also not the best.
She did tell us not to show ourselves to her again, so hopefully we don't until we're ready.
Let us move on, then.
Villain just ignores the fact that we talked to her.
Yeah, you can tell at this point, she's ignoring you on purpose, and that she's like, no, I do not want to be involved in anything that goes on with dragon nonsense.
Yep.
Smart.
Just leave me out of it. I came here. It's like I came here for one thing.
And it's way over there, not up there.
Yes, what I seek is this way, not this way. Away from
Onward.
the dragon. So, you guys follow the fork of the river heading eastward. And though there is another fork that heads down to the southeast, Villain is adamant that it is in fact this direction.
Fair enough.
And eventually you do see, traveling across this way, the remnants of the tiger tribe. Or at least the ones that succumbed to the battle. You see evidence of tracks of individuals fleeing to the northwest. Stragglers, most likely. But you see several bodies that have been frozen to the ground, a dark reflection of what had happened to Savage. The power of the white dragon on full display. But hopefully, you'll find a way to stop her. Hopefully. Just before the break of dawn, you come to the Reggae Glacier. The sheer size of it is mind-boggling. It stands tall, a good 100 or so feet high, at the lowest point. It then varies in height, varying from 100 to 200, 300, 400 feet high, then back down, up, down, all varying different heights of dizzying size. You can see some parts begin to crumble and crack and fall. You can see at the river's mouth a small waterfall emerges from the mouth of the glacier. Not up high, streaking down, from a somewhat of a midpoint. And some water even coming from underneath the glacier, merging into one point of the river. But as you get closer to the glacier, you see Valen begin to point, and there is our entrance. You can see to where she is pointing, at which she had described before.
That doesn't happen to be the Evermelt, does it?
Unfortunately, it seems like it does not. You see before you a massive wall.
Stop there afterwards.
A massive wall of blue ice. Almost mirroring that of a cascading waterfall in the levels and layers that it sweeps down the glacier. And bisecting it down the middle is a light crack. Seems to have us give off a slight glow. And this is what I believe the codicil of white is for. Let me see here. I don't believe you, let's see. You gave the book to Nas while she was possessed. Did you take the book back at all, or did you, otherwise it would be in possession still?
I think we took it back as soon as we had the opportunity.
Okay, so in that case, who would be holding the book at the moment then?
Possibly Scott.
I thought it was,
What, Caleb?
I thought it was Skanak.
I thought so too.
You see Valen kind of like look at you all. Well, the poem should be in the book itself. The key to entering the glacier lies within that book.
Okay, fair enough. But before we do this, let's take a quick look around to make sure certain culty bitch isn't laid in wait.
True.
Excellent
going to
idea.
I'm going to cast Detect Magic as a ritual, and then I will, go looking.
Is there
looking for
anything?
hidden nerds.
Is there anything that what's the tiefling's name?
Avarice.
Avarice. That Avarice always has with her?
She never leaves far without her powerful magical staff, which is a great magical item that would no doubt freeze anyone she was displeased with. And of course she never leaves too far without her gargoyles unless she's setting out for scouting missions, and her raven familiar, for one.
Alright, I'm going to locate object for a staff.
Okay. Let's see here. First, Skanak, go
Does
ahead.
Harpel have a staff?
She does not.
Okay.
In town, actually, she actually got a wand. That'll help her not be useless involving things that don't involve necromancy immune things. Let's see here. But yes, for both. Let's see. Meepo, you're using the spell. Well, go ahead and roll perception for me, Skanak.
Okay.
Because there's something you would notice right off the bat that is not involving the perception, but perception might give you something else.
Also, what is that staff made of exactly?
Excuse me. The staff, to my knowledge, I don't recall. I believe it was made of some crystalline substance. Pot evergreen wood.
Yeah.
17, though. Okay. Let's start with you, Skanak.
I see.
The first thing that you notice, right off the bat, as soon as you cast Detect Magic while you're within range of that wall, it is practically blinding with powerful divine abjuration magic. In fact, a majority of the glacier has a very similar aura to it, not just the wall. Despite the shattering of Oral's form, the magic that she left behind is still very much intact. With a 17, though, you sense a faint illusion magic somewhere 30 feet above you.
Hey.
And as you kind of notice that, you suddenly hear flapping of wings. Quickly, hurriedly flapping upward.
30 feet above, you said.
30 feet above you.
Let me just check something real quick. Ah, yes. I shall cast the spell web using my
Wand
wand.
of webs.
Web. Let's see. So, as soon as you cast it, the creature will make the save. Afterwards, it'll pretty much poop because it doesn't have like a sturdy kind of webbing. But it does need to make the save. Or is it? Let's see here. As starts its turn or enters it during it must make a dexterity save. Okay, so let me look up the stats of this creature real quick. Let's see here, for sake of ease. Okay, not as bad as I thought it's gonna be, but let's see here. No. You shoot out a little bit of webbing from your canister, and it shoots up into the air, and you see the webbing tangle around something. A kind of like a bulky, kind of pot-bellied, gargoyle-like form. As it suddenly begins to drop down. Let's see, it was 30 feet. It got to 40 feet, I'd say. And you hear a stone-like thud as something lands about 15 or so feet to your right.
Hello there.
You hear a muttering in some language that you do not understand. I gotta double check invisibility. Let's see here.
So, this thing look familiar to you?
Spell, I'm sorry, I have an attack or cast a spell. Okay. So the creature is still invisible. But the webbing around it kind of makes the outline of a gargoyle-like form.
Ah,
Theoretically, with blind sight, if I approach it, I should get a better idea of what it approximately is.
You do. What you thought was vaguely gargoyle-like looks very much like the gargoyle that you saw in the vision in the mirror.
Yeah. So you're spying on us, eh?
Hold on, I don't understand. It's babbling. One moment. She kind of snaps her fingers and she starts muttering some arcane magic.
Yeah, I don't speak flying rock.
It's speaking a Terran, native language of the Earth Elementals.
are you implying that you speak like normal rock?
No, but, I don't know. I figured there might be some difference.
Well, he speaks giant, and stone giants speak giant, so maybe there's some kind of like combination. I don't know.
All right, so Scales, you would be able to understand what this creature now is saying. You would hear him say, "Let me go, let me go. Oh man, I really messed up. Mistress is gonna be so angry at me. Oh man, I'm in hot gravel now.
Why? Why would you be in trouble?
Oh, because I got caught. It's okay because, like, oh wait, I can't talk to you. You captured me. You see it. You see it. Well, you don't see it, but Hawks would see it mimicking the sound of like a zipper being tied over the mouth, and then like a locking motion, and then throwing away of a key, all being pantomimed by this gargoyle.
You can talk to us. We're not gonna hurt you.
So the question now is, Scales, is that a lie, or are you trying to persuade him?
I would say Scales is blissfully ignorant enough to honestly not believe that the party would kill him for whatever reason.
Okay,
We've taken on so many other things. Why not take on a gargoyle too?
that does let some credence to it. Okay, go ahead and roll me a persuasion check. 22. Well, I guess it's okay. Mistress cast a spell on me that lets me, like, mentally communicate with her at all times. So hold on. Kind of like puts its fingers to its head. Okay, she knows I'm caught, so it's okay. Um, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I was spying on you. Mistress told me to, but it's okay. You're not gonna kill me, right? Yeah, you're not gonna kill me. You've got a nice dragon there with you. You've got like a murder bird. You've got the hag. Hey. Oh, she couldn't understand.
Let's put this into context here. Our desire to murder you is going to be somewhat dependent on the degree to which you are going to tell your master to respect our privacy.
Okay. He concentrates for a minute. Okay, I told her.
All right, good. Now, if you don't mind respecting our privacy.
So, do you want me to go, or
Yep.
can I not be webbing anymore?
Alright. I'll drop concentration.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Does she ever talk back to you?
Sometimes.
Like,
It's like a mental
communicate-
thing. It's a spell. It's like a psychic bonds. It's hard. It's hard
Yeah,
to
I
describe.
understand.
But like,
For
I think something, she thinks something, we communicate.
yeah,
Would I
Yeah.
be able to tell what kind of spell what spell that is? 'Cause that
I know what
sounds very
spell it is.
useful.
I have it
Yeah.
always prepared.
Go ahead and roll a Arcana check.
7.
Yeah, Skinnock wouldn't know, but Meepo, roll with advantage.
Advantage Arcana.
You get the sense this might actually be a spell that you know. You have a good sense of what they might be talking about.
Right. And do you have communication with other people
Oh
besides
no.
just your mistress?
Oh no, just mistress.
She didn't set it up with you and another gargoyle, for instance.
Yeah. My brother. Well, it's not really my brother. We don't have brothers
Right.
like mortals do, but like he's like, we're chums. We're buds.
Is he around here?
Oh no, he's doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. Like what?
Shrugs.
You don't know?
Sounds
Sounds like your mistress doesn't trust you very much.
Roll insight, Meepo.
Insight. I don't have advantage on that.
10.
Is he still invisible?
Still invisible, yes.
Insight. Here it is.
No. Surprisingly, you also beat him out, Skinnock. He rolled a 4.
Oh, boy.
Oh, buddy.
This guy.
He's trying to lie. Keyword trying. He's not very good at it, though.
Well, I hope you don't tell your boss about our secret weapon.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't tell her about any of that. Man, I'm curious though. What's the secret weapon?
It's
Oh, golly,
peace.
which one?
Peace? Oh, that's boring. How is
Well,
that a
that's
weapon?
my secret weapon. That's my secret weapon.
Lame. Can I go now?
Yeah.
Alright. Hope she doesn't order me to kill you later. Bye! Starts flapping its wings and starts to fly away.
Me too.
And there they go. Unseen. Wherever they need to go.
That's annoying.
Yeah. I wonder. Duration of 8 hours. That's not what I want. Where is this spell? Hello.
You see Velen humming and hawing to herself.
Okay, I've got some spells that I would like to cast. Never mind. We haven't even done the thing yet, but there are some spells I'd like to cast once before we go in.
Alright,
After we opened it, but before we go in.
fair enough. Would you like to open the book then?
All right, let's read this. Let's find out what Arl's diary looks like.
You just open it, it's filled with like pictures of like ice. Like ice is cool.
Arnold's emo poetry.
Ice is nice. But no, as you delve through the pages of this codicil of white, it is detailed very heavily, with all manner of rituals devoted to Oral. So dark poetry isn't necessarily all that far off per se, although it involves a more ritualistic bent to it. And many of them are very difficult to read, given the nature of them. Some involve, surprisingly, or perhaps not too surprisingly, rituals and sacrifices that were done in 10 towns, actually. In fact, it's very likely that the followers of Oral used inspiration from this book to threaten the villagers of 10 towns with to use some of these rituals to the Frostmaiden. So that is most likely where those ideas came from in the first place. You see other sacrifices and rituals involving... it's difficult to describe. Dunking someone, cutting a hole in the ice, and dunking someone alive to freeze them to death. All manner of terrible ways to die, all in Oral's name. There is one section of the book that does catch your attention, Skinnock. It appears to be a mention of a spell called Frost Fingers, which is very similar to the Burning Hand spell. But it is ice. It's a cone of ice that shoots from the fingers. So that is something to keep in mind. A nice little wizard spell. Although, I will say, roll an Arcana check, Skinnock.
Magic, you say?
Yeah. Usually this is a typically wizard-only spell, but given your nature, 19. If you would like, you may go ahead and add the Frostfinger spell to your list, and I will give that to you in a second as I try and find that.
It's literally the same thing as Cone of Fire, just with ice instead of fire damage, right?
I believe it's very similar. I think it's one moment.
What level is it?
I
Sounds
believe it's
good.
It is a first level spell. It also has a very cool secondary effect as
Or
well.
Fire.
Here, I'll paste
Flaming Hands.
I'll paste the link in chat there.
Burning Hands.
Yep. So blast from your fingertips in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in an area must make a con saving throw, taking 2d8 cold damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. The cold freezes non-magical liquids in the area that aren't being worn or carried.
Yeah, it's like the same.
However, eventually, after you gain that knowledge, you find the poem in the back of the book, the very last page. Would you like to read it aloud?
Might as well, I guess. Oops.
I think. Can you do you see the handout?
Do I see the handout? Oh, I do see the handout. Oh, yes. Sorry, I was adding that to the. Oh, we bow to he who wears the crown. Let the world shiver with dread. Clad in winter's whitest gown, her snow enshrouds the dead. Her fury sheds but frozen tears as grey clouds issue forth. Her wind across the wasteland shears, bringing blizzards from the north. Ice-kissed flowers caught mid-bloom, beauty kept in all its grace. Summer's gone to its silent tomb, chilling in her cold embrace. All the world in winter's white, sheathed in sleet and ice. Set upon never-ending night, she conjures paradise. Behold her everlasting rhyme, see how it covers all. Weep not for those she traps in time, behind her glacial wall. Sovereign of summer's loss, general of winter's war, long live the queen of cold and frost, may she reign forevermore. Except we killed her.
I was gonna say, it really is emo poetry.
I didn't want to. The moment you said that, I didn't want to spoil a dang thing. I was like.
Oh, it could have been worse.
It could have been.
But
It could have been worse.
as soon as the final word is read, a terrible ringing resounds throughout all the area around you. At the very top of the crack on that glacial wall, a single light begins to shine, and the glacier itself begins to rumble. And if you still have that detect magic going up, Skanuk, you can see all the magic begin to unravel piece by piece as the aura begins to crumble, splitting down the middle through that singular bisecting crack. Suddenly, it's as if the very glacier itself splits in half, and an opening appears before you through that glacial wall. And as soon as it does, a terrible, foul wind, smelling like death, emanates from the hole. The way is open. Well, that was certainly grandstanding.
It was.
You'll see Marte kind of sidle up to you, Hawks. You know that I would follow you into battle anywhere. But there is a matter of protection that we need to address. The Yeti type cannot fend for himself, and now we have a new young dragon to add to the mix.
I was kind of hoping we would find the Evermelt and be able to leave him there before we went into the city full of undead.
If that is your desire, then perhaps, as much as I am loath to leave the fight behind me, it is what Savage might want for me. If you wish, I will try to find this Evermelt and take them to safety there.
Probably the safer option.
I could send a message to our druid friend who's watching over the Evermelt and ask her to come pick up the kids, and then you could come back and meet us here.
I could.
Fight your way through zombies just to catch up with us as we start the final battle or something like that.
Ah, don't tempt me. She kind of chuckles to herself.
Do the heroic entrance right at the peak of the strongest fight. I think sounds just like you.
All right, go. Just do not make me. You're making me regret this decision. Please just go. Get in there.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay. So, with that, you enter.
So, there's a couple things that I want to do first.
Yes, you did mention that you wanted to do something.
So, the first thing I shall do is I shall acquire, well, first of all, we've got the spell Magic Mouth. I'll post that. And I would like to cast that on something around the entrance so that, like, when someone passes by or, enters the tunnels, a message plays.
Mm-hmm. What would you like that message to be? I see you're typing it up.
Make sure it doesn't insult Muerte.
While you're deciding that, though, let's see here. Let's do a little bit of revealing. And I'll move the map.
Away from the loss.
Away from the loss. Let's see here. So this map is going to be very big. I'm gonna let you all know that. So you're gonna want to go to the top left corner of this map. Also gonna
Ritual cast. And then the second ritual cast will be...
Man, who'd have thunk the glacier'd be full of ice? Does this count as a cave?
It'd be an ice cave, right?
I guess it would. We gotta be careful here. Everything's actually happening now.
Okay, wait, no, wait. So, like, if only things that happen in caves are real, how do you get from cave to cave?
By walking through the dream.
But, like, if the dream isn't real, then are cave entrances real?
I'm pretty sure it's mystical. There's like a mystical inter-reality travel, kind of like magic.
I see. The Gathering?
Nah. Well, I guess you could gather it. But I mean, like, when somebody casts a really strong spell like a gate, they go from one plane to another plane. This is kind of like a long traveling in between where the gate's like a big entire world, I guess? I don't know, that's my guess.
It's more like a pocket dimension that is a little bigger than a pocket, like a cargo dimension.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
No, because you think of it this way. I mean, dreams are a real thing. When you sleep, you dream. They're real, but they're not real.
But I mean, when you fall asleep and you're in one spot, you wake up, you should be in the same spot, generally speaking.
Yes, but in the dream, you aren't in that spot.
But what's Canuck is asking is like, you're in reality in a cave. You step out of the cave, you go into non-reality, and then you step into reality again. You're not in the same cave, you're in a different cave.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
You know, I find this philosophical conjecture very fascinating. As Villain steps in. But I believe we have some history to make. Or rather, uncover.
Have you ever been in a cave before? Is this your first time?
I have been in a cave before, yes, but I've never been in this cave.
Okay, well. I guess you're already familiar with reality as it really is, in caves.
Yes. She kind of squints and like looks to the side.
I suppose that means that beating Harl was all just a dream?
Sort of.
But then again, everything up there with Harl was a dream.
Yes. But now we've got the spoils of the dream and we're back in a cave.
Right.
Which means we've taken our dreams and made it reality.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Alright, let's go.
I think he's finished catching that spell now.
Alright, so I've made sure to written all that down for my notes, Canuck. Alright, not trigger Merte, mental alarm. Okay. Noted.
Yeah. The alarm won't go off for Morse because I'm not sure if it goes off like every time something enters that area or just the first time something enters the area.
You can designate creatures that won't set off the alarm.
Yeah, that's why I'm designating Morte because I'm not sure if it would repeat the alarm if something else came through after her.
Can you designate creatures that are at peace with us?
That might be a bit...
I would assume it has to be like specific entities.
Yeah. I was just grasping for a straw.
I'm so glad that I went through and found all the ritual spells for artificers. These are fun.
Ritual spells are kind of amazing.
They really are.
I just wish we
I can do rituals too, but I only have like 2 of them right now.
So as you
Do you have to be
venture...
prepared to be able to cast them as a ritual? Some ritual casting is better than others.
That is true.
Did we get snare? Snare isn't a ritual though. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's a fun spell, but like it's very specific. But as you venture in,
Also, Morte would actually kill me.
Exactly. The hole itself that the doorway created is around 100 feet high, around 30 feet wide, and 20 feet deep. And at the very end, at this entry point right here, is a tunnel that leads deeper into the glacier. Around 10 or so feet high and around 5 feet wide.
Hop a pot across this little bit of water here. Hop. Hop.
Alright. Villain will follow suit behind you, and I assume the rest of the party also will follow?
Yep.
Villain will keep a little bit to the side here.
Follow me.
And of course, your Kobold Dark Vision will, of course, help you out significantly here. So, as you step into this chamber, you come to around a 30-foot high cavern. At the very center of the cavern, you see a very curious sight. You see what appears to be a wreckage of some kind. What looks to be the remnants of what looks like a wooden ship. The wood itself appears to have been preserved slightly in the ice, but it's clearly shown some signs of age. The purple, the wood and like the deck would be a stained purple, along with what looks like the remnants of some sort of sails, or it's strange. You also see several bodies that have been frozen in the ice. Flesh, even after being preserved, has rotted away over time and has left a ragged corpse behind. All of them appear to be wearing some form of wizard-looking robes.
Before we get too far, Meepo realizes she has a ritual she'd like to cast. It'll just take about 10 minutes of sitting around, but it'll help us.
Okay.
Indeed. As you start ritually casting
Actually,
yes?
now that I think about it, would I have been able to do that while we were talking to the gargoyle? Since
Yeah, because that's what you said that I believe you said you were going to do it beforehand, I believe. You said you had something in mind, so I would have said you have been able to do that beforehand.
Right. Okay, continue.
Okay, but Hawks, you do notice those bodies that are frozen in the ice, they're all missing their heads.
Is there any way to tell how?
Roll a
Someone's collecting
medicine.
still.
Roll a medicine or investigation check.
Definitely know which one of those I'm better at.
18. It seems as if they were purposefully removed.
With some sort of blade, then?
Not a blade. A claw. A very sharp claw.
Ah.
Villian also kind of makes her way upward, and as she kind of she enters this kind of vicinity, you hear a muffling sound coming from her pocket, and she'll kind of jostle it and pull up Professor Scant. Ah, a neathery sky coach! I've always wanted to ride on one of those. Oh, pity it's no longer in one piece. He'll begin to shout out.
I'm sorry, wait, what is this?
Could you do this a little quieter? Like at our normal talking instead of yelling?
Why, what's wrong with my tone of voice?
Not your tone of voice, just the volume.
Oh, all right, I'll be quiet. Yes, a neathery sky coach. Apparently, these were enchanted with the power of flight, and you could soar them across the sky, very much like the cities of Yithrin once did. But of course, once the magic was lost, they crashed and were destroyed. very much and lost, very much like the cities that the Netherese built.
I see. Well, time for some research then. Speck will just pounce on the device and begin studying it.
Okay. Go. It's clearly irreparable, but you may go ahead and roll an Arcana check.
Is this worth doing the thing? It probably was worth doing the thing. Oh no, I don't have it prepared. No, I'll spend 10 minutes on it. Okay. Arcana check with a Bolden Bond.
On our party.
18.
Let's see here. Okay.
Yeah, that entire party in Bolden Bond, it does feel good, doesn't it?
It does.
So
It'd be nice
good.
to have one more for like Muerte or Villain in this case, but just doing it on the entire party makes it really, really nice.
So, you attempt to study the arcana of the boat, and whatever magic was once here is far beyond what you are capable of, it seems. Unfortunately.
So no flying walrus, no flying Akuma.
No flying walrus. But, with that check, you did uncover a little magical seal that is placed in a compartment on the ship. With that check, it appears to be some sort of either arcane lock or something of that nature.
Can I try to pick it?
You certainly may.
Knuckles crack. Alright, what am I using for that?
This would be... This would be a Thieves' Tool check. There does seem to be some sort of magical tampering on it. Sorry, rather, seal on it. So the DC will be a bit higher than usual.
Okay. Thieves' Tools using what?
Either Dex or Int. Your choice for this one, because there is some magical nature to it.
I'm gonna say Intelligence to get the maximum possible benefit, because that's what I be.
Ooh, very nice. 32. Holy shit. Using a little bit of
36.
know-how, a little bit of your magical tinkering know-how, you manage to sneak a little bit of your tinker's tools in until you go ting 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 ting, searching for weaknesses, kind of smudge the seal a little bit, like no one will ever know. You kind of, and then the compartment opens to reveal a safe, a combination safe. Looks to be about 200 or so pounds, made completely of iron with that combination lock. What's interesting, it has numbers from 0 to 50 written in draconic script.
Does it fit in your bag?
Yes. Maybe.
How much can your bag hold? Weight-wise.
500 pounds, I think? But I could try to pop the safe, guys. If you guys don't mind spending a minute here.
Maybe that's a good time for me to have remembered to cast the ritual and do it now. I could also ritual cast silence if we need it.
Shall I go ahead and
Do we want that?
pop it open?
All right.
I mean,
So in that case, okay, silence.
Ritual.
Ritual casting silence. Okay, so that will take up to, let's see, that'll take 10 minutes to do so.
Right, and he can do the safe cracking in the meantime. Once it's finished, hopefully there will be silence, and then if we need to, we can like bang it open or something.
Okay. Alrighty, in that case, gonna go ahead and roll me just a straight dexterity check for me.
Oh, okay.
You kind of put your head up to the safe. You do that little thing. You're just kind of like, you're kind of messing around with the numbers.
8.
8. You're right. So you spend a minute or so kind of fiddling around with it. You're like, eh. Go ahead and roll another check for me. Spend the next minute fiddling around with a new set of numbers. You think you swear you heard one of those tumblers unlock at a certain number. But then you're kind of like, I got it! And then locks back again. Ah, darn it. Another minute passes. 12. This time, you're still... You think you had this time, but no, something's up. It seems like... You think, you're like, no, it can't be randomized. That's not right. Kind of conk your head.
Bond.
Yeah, Pokemon, actually.
Right, go ahead and roll again.
Yeah, okay, so... Golden Bond should be on, I guess. That would be good? I don't know. We roll a d4.
What are Hawks and Scales
16.
up to?
All right, 16. Yeah, while this is going on, what is everyone else doing?
Hawks has his axe out, and he's readying an attack just in case one of these skeletons or something gets up.
This kind of.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, 16. You think you heard 2 locks unlock this time. You're like, I'm getting closer. Roll again. Okay, go ahead and roll that emboldening bond. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. 5 minutes have passed. All 3 locks unlock from the tumbler.
I had to... The requirement was that I realized that I had Flash of Genius and commit to using it this time.
But didn't, so you saved it for later.
Yeah. So you spent 5 minutes to unlock the safe. Inside, as it kind of squeaks open, very somewhat loudly. Let's see here. You see a satchel that has a very thin strap on it. It appears to be made of a purple silk. Almost velvety in color, and velvety in texture. You also see 4 amethysts. And a ring that is made, looks like it's made of chardoline, but it has a ram's shape curved on the ring.
Okay, I'm gonna... Also, wrap the ring up. So it doesn't, touch any bare skin. And put that away. And then scoop up the amethysts. Let me just go ahead and mark those down. So... Ring...
All right.
Ring.
As you're kind of pulling all that together, Scales, as you peek around the corner, you notice that there seems to be that there's, from that tunnel, it forks off into 2 separate, small corridors into the ice. And you notice that there is a green flickering light coming from both tunnels. Flickering almost like a torchlight. And as Skanuk is kind of squeaking the door open, you suddenly hear... a terrible, terrible cackling sound. As suddenly, the lights begin to grow brighter, as if they are drawing closer. And peeking from around the corner, you see these creatures. What appear to be skulls wreathed in green ethereal flame, with red, burning eyes peering around the corner. And they see you. I would like everyone to roll initiative once I get the initiative tracker up.
Like the features now.
Hang on.
Ooh.
Oh jeez. I still have the old stuff up. Let me re-add you, Skinuck.
Roll.
Well, I will have my own.
I know, but for me it was
Yeah, no worries.
here we go.
Putting away my ritual stuff. Looks like it wasn't needed. I thought maybe we were gonna move the safe up out of here and thunder wave and keep a quiet bubble so that the thunder wave didn't get through, but
Do-do-do-do. Interesting, okay. Okay. I need a change of music here.
music by
Music by the wonderful and talented Travis Savoy from his album Winter's Wrath. Let me see here. Here we go.
Ooh, music.
Wait, hold on, not that one. Let's see here. Yes. So,
Take this here.
first up on the initiative order, we have Yuskanak.
So do I hear like ominous cackling from the background?
You do, and what's more, you see a green ethereal
That wasn't
torchlight
me.
coming from these tunnels over here. In addition, you also hear, almost echoing from the cries of the companions, a coming from these tunnels up here as well.
See. Well, no. So first thing I'm gonna do is create. I don't want to make a cannon.
I mean, I was chuckling, but I wasn't cackling, was I?
Was that me? Is that? I start. Yeah. I'm gonna hold off on a cannon for now because I feel like this is a big map and probably a big dungeon. So, yeah, I'm just going to hold action to firebolt anything that becomes visible up here, or just any of them that become visible.
Alright.
If a monster does, I will firebolt it.
Okie dokie.
Yep, kind of a boring turn. That's what I got.
Oh, fair enough. You're just preparing for what's gonna come around the corner. Hawks, what's your dexterity modifier?
+1.
Okay, so they will actually go ahead of you because they have a +3 to their dexterity. Alright, so coming from around the corner, you see a skull with red burning eyes and cloaked in green flame. You see two of them come out from this corner over here, all cackling, which of course leads to your held action for a fireball. $25. Now, what damage is the arcane firearm? Is that its own thing, or is that
Force, right?
I think the arcane firearm is just whatever the damage of the spell is.
Oh, okay.
Ah, I see.
Let me double check.
Yeah, that's just
Because it's
curious.
if these guys are like immune to fire being made of being flaming skulls, that might be relevant.
Yeah, just
Where is our
curious.
fire?
I will say as the firebolt impacts, it does seem like the skull kind of
Yeah,
shakes it off and kind of like goes.
yeah. So the way it works is that it adds it like raises one of the rolls by one by 1d8. So it's just whatever the spell's damage was.
I see. Okay.
Ow! Crap!
It seems to laugh at you. Let's see. All right. So let's see.
Yeah, I twitch. Destiny.
Indeed. And this, let's see, this one right here. My, what's that radius you got there?
Just checking something.
Yep. You watch as a streak of green light shoots out from one of the flame skulls. Oh, no, not a cone. Sickle. Sending it right here, getting Neepo out of range. I need everyone in that circle to make a dexterity saving throw for me. A fireball shoots out from the flame skull.
I'm going to use my reaction to add my 3 AC from the shield to that dexterity save, and in doing so, I will take no damage instead of half.
Okay. Alright, villain, let's see if you're any good. Okay. Wow, most everyone rolling pretty good.
So two things. One, scales. I'm pretty sure Emboldening Bond works on saves.
It sure does. I can put it up if you want to see. And I started it when 5 minutes ago, so it should still be okay, I think.
So that's a 17 for me.
A 17? Okay, in that case, everyone passes. So everyone, except for Hawks, of course, takes 15 points of fire damage.
5 more minutes on Emboldening Bond.
So Villain also takes that damage. Which I forgot to add into the initiative order. She has a part to play in this as well. Okay, so... Alright, but that's not the end of their turn. Oh no. They got some other tricks up their sleeves. These two, seeing you, Scales, let me move this out of the way here. They're going to see you and just go, ha-ha! And choo, choo, little tiny beams of fire will shoot out from their bodies. They're going to try and hit you with their fire ray. A 17 and a 10.
17 hits.
Okay, you will take 7 points of additional fire damage. And this one right here... I think I know exactly what it's going to do. You will see this one start to do a little bit of a twirl as it conjures a flaming sphere. Whoosh! A flaming sphere of green fire erupts next to both Hawks and Skanuk. But of course, right now, you double
Which
check.
one did the flaming spear?
The one that did the flaming sphere was this one in the corner right here. The one I marked with red.
It might be. Okay, I see.
Let's see, it seems... Okay, so right now, it's just there. Right now, it's just there. Well, that is their turn. Hawks, it is now your turn. Right now, there's a flaming sphere right in front of you.
Okay. Well, I do not like this sphere. But I've kind of got plenty of space to maneuver around it. So yes, Hawks will move around the sphere to here. And will attempt to bop the skull.
All right, go ahead and bop the skull.
I might use the bonus action to go big as well. I've got room in this cave, right?
You do, actually. In this cavern in particular, the halls go up to 30 feet high. The tunnels are like 10 feet tall at most. But right here, there's plenty of space.
Okay, so I'm going to go large, and I will attempt to bop. I will attempt to bop this skull with my now fancy battle axe.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, that's a lot better.
Okay, yeah, the 9 will miss, but the 19 will hit.
Yeah, I believe my die for Giant Might has actually gone up now to a D8 of bonus damage. So, yes, that will be 15 points of magical slashing.
Alrighty. You kind of give it a good smack on the skull, and a shard of bone will kind of fly out. You can see it go, ah! As it kind of twirls around and hovering in place. And you just see it kind of staring at you and kind of like just starts chatting its teeth.
There's not much else I can do than that for now.
Okay. Now, because you have embiggened yourself, that does put you within 5 feet of the flaming sphere, unless you wish to... Do you have any movement left?
I don't think there's anywhere I could move to that I would be away from it, so...
Okay, so in that case, you will take the flaming sphere damage then.
Alright.
It's an extra 5 points of fire damage for you.
I resist fire damage.
Oh, sorry, you actually need to make a dex save if you want to make that even less.
Alright. I'm not going to attempt to invoke the shield this time.
Okay.
So, yes, I have resistance to fire damage because of the Ice Rune boots. Among the huge list of things is the Frost Friend, which is resistant to fire damage. So I only take 2 points of damage.
Oakley dokley. So that is your turn. That means Scale, it is now your turn. As these skulls both chatter and chitter in your direction. If they had fingers, you could assume they were pointing and laughing at you.
Maybe snapping aggressively.
Teeth chattering. You can swear you hear like the fire, like almost sound like the sound of finger snapping with the crackling.
I'm gonna bring out my 10 gold coins.
Hmm.
Beginning to feel sorry for these things.
Let me double check something. Where? I swear I had thought I had the token for it, but hang on. Let me go back to that map. I think I.
We had like a round circle. Thought.
We did, but then I must have deleted it like the big dummy that I am. That's okay. I'll find another one. I'll give you permission. Let's see here. Coin. There we go. See? Simple. I'll shrink that down.
Yes.
Give permission. Controlled. Where is it? There we go. Right, you should be able to move that, and you got capture up to 10 of them. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. There we go. 10 coins.
One for each town.
Go, my children, as I command each of them 2 apiece, except for 2 suckers who get 3 each. Probably the ones that hit me with flames and whatnot.
Yeah, these 2 chuckleheads over here. Let me reveal a little bit more so you have like a little bit extra room here. There we go.
Alright, so 3 attacks on the 2 on the left and 2 attacks on the 2 on the right.
Alright. Hit me.
So we will go from left to right, and on the right side I'll do the bottom first and then the top guy.
Alright. Yes? Uh-huh. Yep. And then the next guy. 17, yep. 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 Alright.
Good to know that the algorithm can roll something other than 7.
That is good to know. I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 7s in a row.
7 gang. Also, 27 and a 17 and a 14, which is 2 7s.
Was a 14 just
14s.
double a 7?
2 of them. Well,
Okay, and then the third one is going to be the bottom one on the right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 12 will actually miss. Ah, that is unfortunate.
And the top guy.
Okay, that will hit. And that will also hit. Alrighty. You have dealt a significant amount of damage to these flame souls, but they are still kicking. Except for maybe this one, who's more flame than skull right now.
Did the one that did the flaming sphere have to roll concentration on that, or is that not concentration for it?
Let's see. The one on the bottom, the one you missed, was the one that didn't cast it. So yes, you will have to actually roll 2 con saves.
And then I will actually move one of the coins back over to where I am.
Okay. They don't actually have attacks of opportunity, interestingly enough. So it'll kind of chitter angrily as the coin goes that way.
I like to imagine the coins come into existence and so like clacking together to Simulate snapping.
Oh, a little bit. Alright, so the coins goes that way. Alright, is that your turn, Scales?
That is my turn.
Alright, it's now Valin's turn. Let me see here. What does she want to do? Thankfully, I prepared for this. She will flick out her new fancy wand. She will kind of appear on the corner, and she will cast Magic Missile with the wand. That's one dart at the one concentrating on Flaming Sphere, and the other two at the one down below. 2, 3. So this skull is going to take 5 points of force damage. The one on top needs to make a con save, and takes the extra 2 damage. Okay, still maintains concentration, and Villain will back up. Meepo, it's now your turn.
I'm just gonna... Do I want to move forward? I wasn't being bombed there. I think I'll just do this. For Sinar. Hey Sinar! Been a while, you wanna help out here?
You hear a breathy sigh, and then some words in Elven, as you see the ethereal form of Sinar stand over you. So, enemies attacking you have disadvantage on attacks. You gain +1 AC until the start of your next turn.
And I'm gonna take the dodge action, so I can get advantage on dex saves. Just in case the fireball does make it out here.
Okie dokie. Alright, so that's your turn?
Yep, that's my turn.
Alright, it's now your turn again.
It does feel like with the coins, it's so close to. Well. Which of them looks the least hurt?
The one that looks the least hurt would be... They're pretty even now, but the one that looks least hurt is the one up concentrating on a flaming sphere. The one that you can see. The other two are around the corner, you can't see them, so this one right here.
Alright. He's gonna get a catapult to the face.
Alright!
Granted, he is all face, but...
Right, that makes it more powerful.
Yeah.
Well, less surface area to hit, but the better impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be a 5.
Oh my word.
No! No!
Minimum. Damn, almost absolute minimum.
Dude.
It hit though!
It hit though, but... Okay, well,
It
he
hit.
has to roll a con save. Hey! No more flaming sphere.
It
That
worked!
is... 2
coins,
I'm not
nothing.
I'm not even mad. That is magical to behold.
Who's busy focusing on avoiding the coins gets hit in the back of the head. Ow! What was... my sphere, darn it!
Just
Oh!
look down at his arcade firearm and shake his head and just start walking away. Just walk up here.
Maybe needs a little percussive maintenance.
Starts angrily seething, molding.
Pulls out a screwdriver.
Alrighty. So that was your action. Do you have any bonus actions you'd like to do, or are you done?
I don't know. I don't think I got anything that I don't have any way to come back from that, honestly.
Alrighty. In that case, it's now the Flame Skull's turns again. You can see them kind of like look at each other, look to you, Scales. You see 2 fireballs shot your way.
Oh god.
You fire balls. Okay.
2 fireballs. Let's see here. Goes around corners too. And they're immune to fire, so it doesn't affect them. So yeah, Hawks and Scales and Skanuk, I need you to make 2 dexterity saves for me. And for Scales, I'm so sorry, you're going to need to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 saves for your coins.
Oh boy.
I am not going to add my shield to that. I'm just going to be, as it were.
You do have Emboldening Bond.
Yep. Well,
Well,
I'm just
12 does not make the DC. Alright, so I'm going to roll 2 8d6s.
So I pass on the first, fail on the second.
You failed on the first, passed on the second, because 12...
Yeah.
Skanuk, you fail the first, pass the second. Hawks passes both.
actually not.
13.
So 26
Not
for
too
the
bad.
first, and then 32 points of fire damage for the second.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cast Absorb Elements.
very good.
Very good.
Choose life. Choose life. So that would be 13 on the first and halved and then halved again. So
8 on the second.
excellent.
And Hawks will take 6 from the first and 8 from the second because he passed and also has fire resistance.
Hew.
I thought you succeeded in both of them.
Yeah.
Shield Master negates damage if you pass on a save.
It negates it if I use my reaction to add my AC to the shield, or to the save. And I'm opting not to do that because I might want to use my reaction to do something else at some other point.
So how about them coin Scales? Do they live? One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Considering the minimum damage they could take would be 13, 29, they would die anyway if they passed both saves because they only have 20 HP.
Ah, gotcha. Alright, so in that case, those 7 coins, gone.
That apparently is how you deal with that spell.
Yeah, 2 fireballs at once. Not a good day. Not a good day to be a kobold.
Nope. And this little Scully boy is not having a good time. He just lost his flaming spear. He is going to cast... Oh, I know what he's going to do. You watch as the Flame Skull's form starts to shift, and it almost looks like the skull is turning into a blur of flame and bone. He'll cast Blur on himself, and will move out up here and move 20 feet in the air. So he will get an attack of opportunity with disadvantage from these 3 coins and you, Hawks. But all have disadvantage on the attack rolls.
Okay. Bop.
Okay, 17 still hits. I'll have to roll con for the hit. Okay. Those coins can attack. Oh, wait! Scales, did you roll concentration for animate objects?
Let me real quick.
I gotcha. So 19, so that'll pass. And 21, okay. Maintain. So those coins get to take a tax opportunity. And they do not have disadvantage because Blur dropped because Hawks hit it. $26. Yeah. It thinks it's so smart. Chittering, it'll never get me. Falls to the ground. And then it's the Flame Skull's turns. Which
Are they
means...
speaking common?
No, I was more playing that out in my head of like
Right.
what it, like they would sound like.
It's
Yeah.
not the Flame Skull's turns. They just fireballed us.
I know. I'm saying it ended their turn. Sorry, that's what I said.
Oh, okay.
That was the end of the Flame Skull's turn, so that means it would be Hawks' turn.
Okay. Well, Hawks is going to try to do something about this other flame skull, I think. And that something will be to try to bop it twice. Bop. Oh, well, that
Ooh.
definitely bopped it. There's also 2d8 attached to that as well.
Oh!
God.
Very mighty. He is a real giant here because it's a cave.
You watch as you notice that with both times that you struck what you assume will be the final blow, the bones scatter but then slightly reform, and then the skull lands on the ground, the flame snuffed out.
I stomp over this way. How much cover would these guys have from a thrown javelin?
About half cover, so +2 AC.
Might as well. I have the javelins on hand. Actually, I have a single hand axe that I will grab and yeet at one of them. 24.
Oh yeah, that'll hit anyway. I assume you're going for the closest one?
Yeah, I don't think I would have a line to the other one. But yes, 8 slashing, no additional damage from that. And... Yep.
Alright. Excellent turn. Alright, Scales, that means it's your turn next. These lads just hit you with the 1-2 fireball punch. What are you gonna do?
Give me just a second. I'm looking at the speed for the
Right, for the
Coins.
coins. Gotcha.
Okay, it has a speed of 30 feet.
As he's doing his turn, Meepo is probably surveying, watching her allies, making sure they're all alright. What's everyone looking like?
Okay, I can bonus action command them to take the dash action.
I am at half health.
Okay.
And from there, I will proceed to slaughter these 2 skulls.
Alright. And smack. I will say this one looks the most injured. Okay.
I did not take kindly to taking a chunk of health.
I bet you didn't.
And also, because I have pack tactics, and
Yeah.
that coin is an ally, I have advantage on this.
Advantage, baby. Let's go. All right, 6 to... Gone. Oh my goodness gracious. Dead. Absolutely destroyed. With 1-2, how would you like to flavor you destroying these two creatures?
They're staring at me, charging up their beams to fire more fire beams at me as I just disappear in a gust of wind and appear right by them and just stab their skulls with the dagger that I had pulled previously in the comments.
Alrighty. You flip the dagger between your fingers, and whoosh, they go, eh, eh, chattering their teeth.
What is it that Hawks would have said? Nothing personnel, kid?
Kind of.
You can feel the fiery breath leave their bodies as they extinguish, and their skulls break in an instant, then shift back into full skulls, slamming onto the ice. Inactive. So, with that, combat will come to a close. And because of time, as you all breathe and feel the adrenaline passing over, I will say very quickly, let me look through the book. Let me see. As you do a quick pass around of the tunnels that they had come from, seeing nothing. And as you kind of finish your sweep, take stock of how everyone is, we're going to end the session there for tonight.
Okay.
It's about 11:49 anyway, so we wouldn't have spent too much time. All right. Well, I thought that was pretty interesting to say the least.
Good time.
I didn't realize I was so specifically resistant to fireball at this point.
Oh yeah.
Just disrespecting them.
Yeah.
Unlike me.
Yeah, alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream here. If you've been watching, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll tune in next week to see what lies within these caves. But until then, bye-bye.